Good morning, all, to Gigi's talk show, the first episode of this one. And here we have an eminent guest, Hema Vinod ji, today with us. She is an established author of 2 books on Amazon. The first came in 2021, Parenting Made Simple. It is an excellent guidebook on how a parent can navigate through the journey of parenting, through the adolescents, hand-holding them in the right way on the guidelines of the UN 7 principles. Now, the second book came called Girl Empower Yourself. This book is based on the 7 principal questions that a woman needs to empower herself and get to her to maximize her strengths, and has 10 illustrated examples of real life women leaders in that. And she's not just that, she's an educator and a humanitarian who had worked with UN and UNICEF around the world, not just in India. She has worked with countries like Sri Lanka, Uganda, Somalia, Yemen, Iraq, etc., and many more. And her third book is going to come out. Let's meet our guest, Hema Vinod.
Thank you so much, Geeta, for this introduction. It's really a pleasure to come on your show, and it's the first, I believe. So it's a great honor to be on your show.
Thank you.
And thank you for that wonderful introduction once again. If I may introduce you, Geeta.
Yes, sure.
Geeta is an established educator, a trainer, an entrepreneur, a coach, a motivational speaker. And I'm so impressed with the work you do, Geeta. With NGOs, with old age homes, especially your webinars with women and children. You're giving so much, especially to children. And I really want to thank you for the work you do.
Thank you, ma'am. So, when you came to India after the pandemic and you wanted to go for the second inning, or you say the purpose of your life, you chose to be an author. And when you decided to be an author, you decided to write your first book on parenting. That is a guide to parents on how to guide your children who are teens or adolescents through their rough age or through their turbulent journey of teenage. So why did you choose this as your niche?
So I have to take you back to 2020 when we were all locked up due to the COVID pandemic. So that was the time I came back from my assignments abroad, and I realized I must do something. I must follow my dreams. And this was the time I realized I wanted to become a coach, and I started my coach training with IPEC. During the coach training, we were asked to identify a niche. And after thought, I realized I want to work in the space of adolescents, because this is a group that is in transition between childhood and adulthood. And that's the time they need a great deal of support. And as we know, their brains are developing. They're likely to make emotional decisions, but we want them to make more rational decisions, because the rational part of their brain is still developing, the prefrontal cortex. So with all these factors, I said, I want to support adolescents. And the way I can support is by supporting parents to be better equipped, because that will impact on the adolescents. So that thought came to me, why shouldn't I write a book? Because the book will directly impact the adolescents by getting good parenting from their parents. So that's how the idea of a book came up. And I wrote it, and within 14 months, in 2022, it was published. 2021, sorry.
Okay. The book is a wonderful guide, actually, hand-holding any parent who has a teenage or an adolescent child at home. Now, how can I say that? Because I happened a chance to translate your book into Hindi. So I got to know the basic ingredient and the value that is there in the book. And when I went through that book, I found that it is illustrated with real life examples around the globe of children and parents around the globe, right? So it was such a beautiful reading that it could really take you and guide you how to do each exercise with your child, or how to actually overcome any obstacle that comes in their journey. Now, when you did that, is there one or two incident that happens to stick around with you?
Thank you so much, Geeta. I want to also thank you for doing the translation so wonderfully to Hindi. That was a brilliant piece of work. So things that are very close to my heart regarding the book are, one is relationships. There's no substitute for relationship between a parent and a child. So you have to focus on that. Nothing else can substitute for that. Not the best college degree or the best, most expensive gifts. There's no substitute for relationship. So you have to invest in your child right from early childhood. And you cannot be a fantastic parent of an adolescent suddenly. You have to invest in that right from childhood. So the second thing is, you have to have a vision for your child. How will my child be 20 years from now? If your child is young, you need a vision for that child. This is how I want my child to be. I want my child to be responsible. I want my child to be humble. I want my child to be dedicated. I want my child to be a family person. So do we have an idea what we want a child to be like? So once we have that, we can work towards that through role modeling, through stories, through discussion, through experiences. We can build the child in the direction that we want. And so the focus on values is very important. So that is clearly illustrated in the book. Then it's all about creating a nurturing climate. You have to have a nurturing climate that children can grow and thrive. So very often when we are as parents, we are caught up with so many things. We forget about the nurturing climate. We forget about being happy ourselves. How do we expect the child to be a happy person if we are always grumbling or worried or anxious? So it's all about creating a nurturing environment. And there are principles around nurturing environment, which is given in the book. So you need to follow those principles and create that nurturing environment. So these are the three things I would highlight.
Okay. When it comes to digitalization, today's world is a hyper-connected world. And in this world, we see that many countries are calling up for epidemics like depression, right? And we have ministers in UK for depression and loneliness. So this is getting into a world experience today. In every household, it is nothing new to be heard that someone is going through depression or facing loneliness. So what do you think would be a parent's guide to help their children through this epidemic?
The good thing is in India, we have that close family ties. So that is a good thing we can build upon. So there's that connecting is very important. Once that connection is there, then we don't have to worry about, that loneliness, and connecting and communicating. So in the 7 principles of parenting, one of the principles I have brought out is communication. Another is unconditional love, self-esteem, resilience. So all these principles, when you follow them, the child does not have that loneliness because you have created that kind of environment where the child is free to talk to you, bring up concerns, and even say, I need help. So that you can take the child to the right person for help. If you cannot help, you can take the child to a coach or a counselor. So, and another thing is to realize that parenting is the most important job. Sometimes we forget that as parents. We are so caught up in making money or doing things for our house or facing the challenges at work, we forget that parenting is the most important job. But once we focus on this, then loneliness won't be there because we are connecting with the child, we are communicating well with the child, we are giving unconditional love, building the self-esteem, creating that resilience in the child. So loneliness won't be an issue.
Okay. So when it comes to India particularly, we have faced, as a coach I have seen, as a coach, parenting coach and an author you had also seen, and many of my colleagues and others have also been wondering about why this disparity. Because we give so much importance to IQ that we forget about EQ, which is an essential component of a child's growth and being a successful individual. It is not just about our IQ, but it is as important as our EQ. And UN and UNICEF have given substantial evidence that proves that if you work on your EQ, your IQ can be improved. EQ is something which needs actually work from your inside out, and family and others play an important role in that, right? The support system. So when we ask a child to take a test, or we want our child to be healthy, when a parent is advised from a school to go for a depression test or something, parents are normally on the defensive, like, no, my child cannot have these issues. But actually we forget that any kid can have issues with emotions, and going to a psychologist or seeing a counselor or a coach is nothing etc, nothing to think of. It's just like something, you have a flu and you go to a doctor. What is your opinion on this issue?
I agree with you 100%, Geeta, because as parents, normally in India, our focus is on the academics, the intelligence of the child. For the child to be successful, the child has to go for this education and that education. So, but we forget the EQ, the emotions of the child. That is not given much importance, even at home or school. But this is the gap that I felt so much that prompted me to write my third book, ABC of Parenting, which is focusing on mental and emotional health. So that the parent is also aware about the emotions and how to handle the emotions and the mental health. There are even useful checklists for the parents to use to focus on mental health and the emotional aspect. So this is very, very important, a very valid point that you've brought, and that awareness has to be built in parents to support the children, to be in touch with the emotions, to cope with emotions, to give importance to EQ as much or if not more than IQ.
Right. We come across news in newspapers and magazines where IITians, top rank holders, very good doing in their professional life, end their life because of just some trivial intervention in their path, or some issues that suddenly popped up. Just as we came to know about so many stories during the COVID pandemic. So your saying is that the parent should be aware of nourishing the child, not just with the EQ and IQ part, but also be involved in building the resilience part of it. Do you recommend that part?
Yes, of course, because one of the 7 principles is resilience. Because you cannot have a child who is studying very well, who's doing so well, reach the IITs, but doesn't have the life skill to cope when a problem comes. So problem solving, having the right values of resilience, of being able to cope should any problem come up. So those are the things we have to build in the child consciously. Not solving every problem for him or her, but the child has to know there'll be one problem after the other and how do I solve it. So all 3 of my books have given this importance: life skills and resilience and building the ability to cope with problems.
Okay. So you mean to say is the plant should be given the nourishment in the right amount, not overfed, so that the child knows how to stand up and feed and take inputs from outside as well. It is not totally dependent on the parent, right?
Definitely. So the analogy I can give is that of a gardener. A gardener provides a thriving climate, the good climate, but the plant has to do its own growing. The plant has to draw the sunlight, the soil, the water, and grow itself. So even when you see the nurturing climate principles of a nurturing home, one of it is as a parent, I'm responsible to my child, but not for my child. So the child ultimately has to take responsibility, has to take accountability, has to be responsible for his or her actions, and has to know about consequences. Whatever I do has a consequence.
So it's about building a conducive environment at home which nourishes the child, just aptly not overdoing it. At the same time, gives the protection and the courage to speak out their mind and come to the parent for anything they need. Right?
Exactly. I agree with you.
Okay. So your second book came in 2022, which you wrote for girls, Girl Empower Yourself. And it has 7 steps that you speak about, 7 questions actually, on which a woman or a girl child should be thinking for her future. Why those 7 questions? There could be any number of questions, right?
That's a great question, Geeta. So when I wanted to do this book for girls, because of my work in different countries and I'd seen so many issues that girls face, I said, let me develop a guide, because very often girls don't have role models. So let this be a guide for every girl to pick up and say, yes, now I know what to do. And what are the most important 7 questions? That's what I thought. What are the most important 7 questions that can help every girl? So who am I? How can I be happy? How can I be effective? How can I reach my aim in life? How can I be the best version of myself? How can I lead a healthy life? How can I nurture my relationships? So these 7 will be like a blueprint for every girl to say, yes, now I know what to do. I have the guidance. I can go with my life. So these were the most important questions that I chose.
And instead of taking world leaders as examples, you took real life 10 stories from around you. And that was beautiful, because we are not like famous people. We do not relate much with them. We relate to people around us. And you gave examples who were around us, who made successful stories from their failures and from their experiences out of very hard situations they had been through. And these stories were so wonderful. Is there a story which sticks to your mind or is very particularly close to you?
Thank you so much. It brought to me the memories of these women, because every woman has faced some hardship to reach success. So even after you reach a successful level, there may be some challenges which you have to face and you have to overcome. All of us are doing that.
Right.
So I wanted to portray women at different stages and what they have gone through. Because as I mentioned, I felt that girls lack role models. So this is why I bought the role models, for them to share their stories, to share their challenges and how they overcome them. Now, one of the stories that came to me and maybe inspired me to write this book for girls is a story of a girl called Zaina, who I met in one of the countries I was working.
Okay.
She was a very strong girl of 15 years. And during my school visit, she would come and talk to me. So I found out that she was under pressure to get married, which she did not want. She wanted to be a professional woman.
Okay.
But the pressure was intense to get married. So how could we help Zaina? Luckily, UNICEF at that time, we had a program called skills training. So Zaina joined that skills training and learned how to apply henna on the hands of women. So with that skill, she started a small business. We gave a small grant to her to start the business. And along with a friend, she started the business and started applying henna on women's hands. And that business took off, and she started giving money back at home. And when the money started coming, the parents stopped pressurizing her so much to get married, and she would come to school in the morning. So this was one story that stuck to me, that girls, if given support, can all overcome their problems and can walk towards success. So the thing is, as educators, as parents, we need to give that support, the right support to every girl.
Okay. Now, since you have worked across the country and across the world, I would like to ask one question that is particularly on every audience mind. What is the difference between parenting in India and abroad?
I like to see the positive part of parenting in India, which is the close ties we have as a family.
Yes.
You know, there's so much closeness, and so much people value children so much, and family ties. Abroad, what I appreciated is that parents try to foster independence from a young age. They try to make their children independent and also involve them in household work and giving them responsibilities. So each part has their own benefits that we can take from. Of course, anything goes beyond, it becomes a problem. Like, you know, there's a saying in the local language that too much of honey becomes a poison. So it's like that. Anything becomes too much, it becomes a problem, becomes negative. So also we see among parents, when they do too much for the children, you know, protect them too much, give them too much, there's a problem, and make the decisions for them. Very often, like, parents make the decisions what their children should study.
Right.
When my son was in engineering college, he said most of the children are forced into engineering by their parents, which is so unfortunate. Imagine doing a job which you don't enjoy. I mean, you'll hate it. You just want to just do something during the day and leave it as fast as you can. So that's a real tragedy when parents take the decision, want the children to be successful, so they do everything, even make the major decisions for them. So that's where we have to be very careful as parents, not to overdo this caring business for our children. Care for them, but also help them to make the right decisions, support them to be independent.
Hema ji, I had been in this coaching industry for last 4-5 years. Before that, even when my son was growing up, I literally should say I have also used that kind of thing, right? So we are what we see around, right? So we didn't have a kind of guidance on how to work it out. So although I gave him the choice, like there is BSc and there is engineering and there are other options, but not much options were aware. I was not aware of many of the options, and I could not actually guide him properly in the way I should have actually. Feeling now, after he's an engineer now, but still I feel I could have done a better job there had I been equipped with the conditions and the things I know now today, because of the reading of the books and all the things that is around us, right? And this came during the pandemic only. This kind of awareness came during the pandemic only, that there were so many options of learning, not just going to the school and colleges. And the importance of coaches and trainers came into the fore during the pandemic. I really feel if I had this opportunity of learning before and I knew of this avenue, I could have availed it, reading through a book or through a coach or mentor, and could have given a better kind of opportunity or perception of what availability was there for my son. I think every parent out there should learn from our experiences, because what we fail to do, they have an opportunity to do it and go beyond. So please take an opportunity that is there available and go beyond to do for your child. But please don't overdo it, as Hema ma'am says, so that the child knows the right amount of balance in his or her life. So Hema ji, when it comes to the next question, I would ask you one thing in particular. Is parenting just between a parent and a child thing, or is it beyond and over?
The saying that it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
So it cannot be a parent-child thing. You have the people around you, the extended family. Then you have the people around, then your neighbors. You have the society. You have the community around you. So it can never be between a parent and a child.
Okay.
So many things around us affect us as well. The situation around us. There may be some norms, like societal norms, which affect us. Like in some countries, I saw that early marriage was a problem. So that affects, because your decisions get affected. Early marriage for girls. So girls cannot study further. So they are impacted by that.
Right.
And because society expects them to marry, they have to wind up their studies. So, society affects us. Like in India also now, there is the pressure for children to, achieve very high marks.
Right.
That puts a lot of pressure on children to
Right.
study and to get over 90. The child may not have the capacity to get 90 or 95, but the pressure is so much. So we are not separate from our environment. The situation affects us. It's only the parents also have to act as a buffer, protecting them when the situation is not very conducive. When, you have to stand up and say, I expect my child to do well, do his best, his or her best, but I don't have to get the kind of marks that society or, the community is expecting.
Right.
So we have to put down our foot at times and say, yes, I know. My child and I know that this is what he's going to do. This is the course he's doing. He doesn't want to become an engineer or doctor. This is what he has chosen. So somewhere that decision has to be made, and you have to be strong to stand by it.
Right. So coming to the end of it, your 2 books are out and the 3rd book is in the ambit of coming. So when is it going to come out, and what is the name of your 3rd book?
That's a wonderful question. It's called ABC of Parenting. and I'm working hard to finalize it. It's almost getting ready. So hopefully by the end of October, it will be ready. As I mentioned earlier, there's a strong focus on mental and emotional health and parenting pillars. So everything a parent needs to build a good parenting system, the foundation is there. So it's a matter of taking it and knowing that this is what I need to build my child's journey as an adolescent. And it's also useful for pre-adolescents because you prepare for the adolescent stage. You don't become a fantastic parent suddenly as an adolescent parent, but you have to build over the years as you come to the adolescent stage. So it's going to be very useful for all parents. And also there is parenting insights. So always I've involved the voices of other parents, and these are experts and parents themselves. So it's good to learn from their experiences as well.
Right. Instead of facing everything and then taking the blow, it is better to learn from somebody else's experience and lower the blow that you get, right? So one more thing that comes at the end that comes to my mind is, since the world has opened up during COVID-19 pandemic, and now we know there are so many avenues of learning. It's not just about school and college. It's all over the internet. You can learn from YouTube. You can learn from Instagrams. You can have coaches, mentors from around the globe at your convenience, at your home. What is your perspective on this opening up of avenue of knowledge?
As an educator, I would say learning is very welcome. I remember during the pandemic, it was through learning through the online system that I gained so much. Even my coaching was done through an online system. So there's no limit to learning when you're open to learning online. But of course, the closeness that you have in a traditional offline class, a teacher with the students, that closeness, that is very, very important in a school setting, because the child learns from the teacher, connects with the teacher through the verbal, the non-verbal communication. So that has its own advantage, because we all grew up in that offline system. But the online just opens up opportunities to learning. I remember attending so many classes during the COVID period online, and it was such a blessing because we didn't have to go anywhere. You sit in the comfort of your home, and you can access courses. Like today itself, when I was talking to you, you said you have a class with children abroad, US and some other UK, if I'm not mistaken. So, geographically, you can cross boundaries. There's no limit to whom you can reach with the online system. So each system has its own advantages.
Okay. So as we come to the end, I would give the audience an added advantage. The link to ma'am's book, Parenting Made Simple, and Girl, Empower Yourself, the book for that, and the link for her website and my website and everything is in the description below. Those of you who would like to follow us or would like to ask us anything, please feel free to contact us in the given description. So with that, thank you, Hema ji, for a wonderful talk that we had. And I think this should provide a beautiful insight on how parenting has to be done and what are the criteria and the points through the growing years we should keep in mind. Also about the women, what questions are important for them and how they can overcome the obstacles that life throws. As it is said, when life throws lemon, make a lemonade out of it, right? So we are all in that process of helping teenagers, children, and women conquer the world through the limited knowledge that we have. So if in any way we are able to help you out, please feel free to contact any one of us. Thank you, Hema ji.
Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be part of this interview. Thank you.
Thank you.